Yes, guys, it is another week of Premier League football, match day number 4 of the Premier League season, and we are back for another Chris Talks Football podcast. Welcome if you are new. But the big stories of this weekend, just a few minutes ago, the first North London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur ended as a draw, 2-2. But to be fair, both sides had quite a few chances to win it late on, and we'll talk more about the effects of this result on their teams later on. Also, Liverpool yesterday won away 3-0 at Burnley. Good result for Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp, of course, they keep their 100% record going away from home. Manchester City beating Brighton in a similar manner which they beat West Ham on the opening day of the season, 4-0. Sergio Aguero helping himself to a double. Manchester United, probably the shock result of the weekend, drawing at home to Southampton, as well as Chelsea drawing at Sheffield United. But we'll have loads more on these 10 games from the Premier League and also from the Championship. We'll also hear about Bury's expulsion and Bolton Wanderers being saved. Wasn't a great comeback for them though, because they conceded 5 for the third time in a row in the league. So we'll get opinions on that as well. So another week in the Premier League, and of course it's not full without controversy. The first North London derby finished Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2, and I did see the game. Literally it was end to end for most part of it, because these two sides have been rivals for God knows how long. But Arsenal, they had a lot of chances to win it. It was Tottenham who actually opened the scoring, with Eriksen scoring a goal. I think that's his first of the season. And then Harry Kane doing the business from the penalty spot for Spurs. Was it a penalty? Well, I think it was. I think when I saw it, without the replay, I was thinking, it's one of those that could be given, one of those that could not be given. But I think looking at it closely, it probably is a penalty more. But yeah, Arsenal fought back from 2-0 down, and Aubameyang and Lacazette scoring the 2 goals again. Those two, of course, they're going to link up well, because they have done well in the past. Last season, they did incredibly well last season, as they scored a lot of goals to help Arsenal into Europe. But those two scored to tie the game, and then a late VAR check to disallow an offside goal. It was Kolasinac who put the ball into the back of the net. On closer inspection, it is offside, but by a small margin, probably less than a yard, I think. So yeah, good decision in the end by the referee. I thought that the referee was good. He could have given a penalty late on for Harry Kane. He went down in the box, but no, of course it was not a penalty. Definitely not. He didn't, dive, but it's not a penalty. It's not enough for him to go down that easily for me. But for both sides, what does this mean? Well, both sides now are going to be stuck on, I think Tottenham are going to be stuck on 5 points, and Arsenal are the same, I believe. Let me just check quickly. No, they're actually going to be on 7 points. So Arsenal are going to be on 7 points, same as Everton and Crystal Palace. So yeah, they're 2 points ahead of their rivals. Tottenham, 5 points from 4 games. To be honest, looking at Tottenham's fixtures, that obviously they had the draw, they had the defeat, Spurs at Newcastle. But if you look at it, Manchester City and Arsenal in their first 4 games, you could say that probably the maximum amount of points they would have got, for me, I think, looking at those 4, probably 8, because I can't see them winning against Manchester City and Arsenal, the way they started, they made a positive start. I mean, 7 points from 4 games is not that bad. But if you look at the teams around them who've got 7 points from 4 games, the likes of Palace and Everton, but it's early days in the season. There are loads more months in the Premier League to go. But for Tottenham, I don't actually know who they have next. But Arsenal, it was a valuable point really, because at half time when Lacazette scored that consolation, it felt like a consolation at the end. But when Lacazette scored that goal, I did see Arsenal pushing all the way in the second half to get an equaliser, because I don't think they would have won it. Because if you remember back to last season's North London derby, I think Arsenal were ahead, but Tottenham came back, but Arsenal did go and win the game. But it was completely the opposite this time. I didn't expect Arsenal to win because I didn't feel, in terms of the balance of play, I didn't feel that they would have earned it on their first half performance, because they were a little bit below average in the first half. But some key players for Arsenal, of course, Lacazette and Aubameyang. Nicolas Pepe made a few good runs, but I think another player like Nicolas Pepe made a few good runs down the flanks was Moussa Sissoko, but he just couldn't really deliver a killer ball in for Harry Kane. But Kane off the mark against Arsenal. He has a very good record against Arsenal, but I think that's his second goal of the season. So it's a decent start. But of course, August has ended, and Harry Kane, normally at least, in my terms, is quite prolific in August. But what does this mean for Tottenham? I think they're going to have to really try and win at home, because they should have won this game. They really should have. But Arsenal created a lot of chances, to be fair to them. So it was a very good display from Unai Emery's men. And they can kick on from this. Of course, the confidence of being, coming back from 2-0 down against your rivals is pretty pleasing. So but there was a challenge late on. I think it was Granit Xhaka on for Dele Alli. Or really, I just feel like the balance of play was, in both sides' hands. But in terms of finishing, where will these two sides finish? I mean, I've said this a few times. Arsenal probably finish in the Europa League spots, and Tottenham in the top 4. I mean, don't let the amount of points that they've got so far fool you, because it's early days in the season. Let's talk about another London team, and that is Chelsea. My word, what has happened to Chelsea? And I know people will be attacking me saying, "Oh, but they've got a transfer ban. They've sold Eden Hazard. They've got a lot of youthful players. Give them time." And I am giving them time. I am giving Frank Lampard time. I'm not saying that Frank Lampard should be sacked, even though they've got only, how many points? I think they've got 5 points. But I'm not going to be one of those Lampard out supporters. But credit to Sheffield United, because they really digged. I mean, 2-0 down from the first half, I thought, okay, I think this could be the Chelsea of old, hammering teams 4-5. But Sheffield United, I did kind of feel for them. Their the 2 goals they conceded were a little bit tangible. I think that Dean Henderson's goalkeeping for the first Chelsea goal has to be questionable, whether he can gather the initial shot. And then the second, the 2 centre halves, they're going for the same ball. It was, it was a little bit of panic, and they only one of them can really go for that ball, just clear it really, just toe punt it away from the penalty area as far as he can. But credit Callum Robinson, and I think an own goal from Kurt Zuma, who was on loan at Everton last season. They gave Sheffield United the 2 goals, and credit to them. And I've heard a lot of people saying Sheffield United will go down because they don't score goals. And credit, and I do agree with them. I don't think they'll score a lot of goals in the Premier League. I know that they certainly won't get as many as Chelsea, but they've drawn with Chelsea, they've beat Crystal Palace, they've drawn with Bournemouth. They have got 5 points. So really, this is a good start to Sheffield United. And of course, they need 40 points. I mean, a lot of people say 40 points is the barrier to, survive relegation, and that's what Sheffield United want. And, they're an eighth of the way through that, so, yeah, they can keep going. They could frustrate the likes of Man United, the likes of Spurs, or Arsenal, or Liverpool, or Manchester City, but, yeah, it was a good point for Sheffield United. Chelsea, though, that is a missed opportunity. That is a missed opportunity. They are on 5 points. And I'm going to bring another team into the conversation. I'm going to bring Leicester City into this conversation because Jamie Vardy, once again, proving to everyone really why he is one of the best Premier League strikers. I mean, he's been one of the most consistent strikers in the last 4 or 5 years because he has scored, fluctuating between 20 goals a season. I mean, 24 when they won the league, 16 the season after, 23 and then 18 last season, so he's been there and thereabouts, and he is a damn good player, Vardy. And if any of you saw the first goal, he lobbed the Bournemouth keeper from 25 yards, but you have to question the Bournemouth keeper's positioning. I think the reason, I don't really know why he would come out. I mean, if Vardy takes an extra touch, then maybe then you can start to come out, but not not in the middle of that. But Leicester now have got 8 points. They are unbeaten. Lads, this is the exact same start that Leicester City had when they won the title. And I'm not saying for 1 minute they'll win the title. I mean, they won't, but they could sneak into the top 6. I think they're the only side that could beat Chelsea to the top 6. The big team I see that are not finishing in the top 6 at this moment are Chelsea. Considering the way they've performed against Sheffield United, I think at the end of the season, for them to get into the top 6 would be an achievement under Frank Lampard. I really do. Because, they're pretty much where they started, even if they had Eden Hazard or, other important players. They finished in the top 6 last season, and if they do the same thing, it will be a decent season, and that's with a transfer ban. Imagine what they would have done if they didn't have a transfer ban. They'll probably bring in a striker or a defender. But yeah, that's really all I have to say, really. Can Leicester, challenge the top 4 because... top 6, because really, they're playing some good football. Tielemans, Vardy, Maddison, Harvey Barnes, they're really... Brendan Rodgers is working like a mini Manchester City, really. But he is a good manager, Brendan Rodgers, and of course he's come close to winning the league before with Liverpool in 13-14, but they missed out, so he has that experience of how to win the league. But Bournemouth, again, I mean, I can see them finishing mid-table, to be honest. They're the bottom half of the table. I expect them to finish in and around that area, but Leicester, as I said, will probably finish in 7th place. I do not see any other team that will even come close to 7th place other than Leicester or Everton. But speaking of Everton, a few hours ago they claimed their second win of the season against Wolves, and to be honest, they kind of needed that win because after that 2-0 defeat to Aston Villa, in which they had a catalogue of chances, they put away chances in this game. Richarlison scoring twice. Again, Richarlison's a little bit like Vardy. I mean, yes, his spell at Watford wasn't the same potency that Vardy would have had, but he's still a damn good striker. He scored, I think, almost 20 goals for Everton in the season and 4 match days that he's been there, so he's a good striker, Richarlison. But Wolves ended with 10 men. Willy Bolly sent off for his second yellow card. Deserved sending off, really. I think it was frustration that was boiling him over. But Wolves, I mean, they've only taken 3 points from 4 games. Now, I for one, I'm not suggesting that they might be relegated. I mean, of course not, they won't be relegated. But I'm just saying that, it's sort of like the Europa League has taken a toll on them because, they've qualified for the group stages, which is in itself an achievement because you look at all the top 7 teams, all the teams that finished 7th that have qualified for the Europa League group stages, and Wolves haven't been in Europe for a long time, but that's good, and I think that it'll do well for them. I think that Europe will provide them with a lot more experience. Of course, it's going to take a lot of energy out of their games. It's shown here in the first few matches of the season. They've already played something like 4 or 5 European games, and they've only got 3 points. I think without those European games, they could be well on to the amount of points that their opposition they faced today would have had, and that's 7 points. But Everton, I think, again, defensively, the way they conceded their goal, the Wolves' goal, Roman Saiz, and really, I think it was one of their centre backs. I don't really know who it was. Should have cleared it when Adama Traore put in the ball in, but Richarlison, good in the air, good on his feet. Speaking of defensive mistakes, the first Everton goal was a mix-up at the back between the keeper and I think it was Willy Bolly, I'm not sure, and it gifted Richarlison with a goal. But expect Richarlison to hit the same scoring heights that he did last season because he is a good player. But moving on, West Ham absolutely obliterated Norwich City, and I use obliterated in the most extreme fashion. Honestly, it was like the US dropping Hiroshima. That's how good they were. Sebastian Haller getting a goal as well. I mean, he's had a really good last 2 games. 3 goals in 2 games. Pretty good. And West Ham did silence, the top goal scorer in the league, Teemu Pukki. And if any team could do that, it does show signs that Norwich are defensively a little bit weak. But of course, they had an injury. They had no, that was Manchester City. I'm talking nonsense. But West Ham silencing Teemu Pukki. But West Ham are looking like a good little team, are they? I mean, Fornals, Felipe Anderson's doing well. Obviously Haller, he's doing bits. So is Lanzini. I mean, they're all coming together really, and I think West Ham. I think a lot of people's dark horses for Europe. Personally, I don't think they'll make Europe. I think there's just too good of competition, and I know people will say, "Oh, but we've just spent our, highest amount of money on a striker that shouldn't really be at West Ham in Sebastian Haller. He should be at a better club." No disrespect to the Hammers, but the Hammers are a big club, so I don't really know why I've just said that, but Haller on fire, Frankfurt last season. And he's done well the start of this season. He's got 3 goals in 2 games, so he has done well. And expect him to be the anchor that takes West Ham up the table. I mean, they want to improve on last season. They finished slap bang in the middle of the table. But I think they haven't really played, apart from Manchester City. West Ham haven't played a top 4 club. But I think top 4 clubs will really hate going to the London Stadium. I think that Haller, the defence is doing well. They didn't concede against Norwich, and they only conceded 1 goal against Watford. So defensively they're doing all right. But people, I think top 4 clubs will really, feel the atmosphere. A bit like last season when West Ham beat the likes of Manchester United and Arsenal and drew with Liverpool. And I think more of the same, really. The other results around the Premier League: Crystal Palace managed to beat Aston Villa 1-0. Jordan Ayew scoring a goal, and that means Aston Villa have now won. Crystal Palace have now won twice in a row, and their first win at home. And they'll probably just kick on now after that. Newcastle United and Watford in a very physical game. A lot of challenges went in that game, but they managed to finish all square. Newcastle above the relegation zone, I believe. But Watford, bottom of the table going into the international break. And of course, Liverpool and Manchester City both beating Burnley and Brighton respectively by 3-0, Burnley Liverpool, and 4-0 Manchester City Brighton. The only concern for Manchester City is their defensive problems. They have now got an injury to Aymeric Laporte. if it's serious, that could be a big blow. And it's little things like that. Even if one person gets an injury, I mean, Laporte was very, very important to City's title win last season. And if City want to win the title again, the third time, a hat-trick, then he's going to be very important this season. But really, it's just a question of, do City have, a lot of defensive options? So, I think really Manchester City, they will win the league still, because I think they will have the capability in the they will have the capability in terms of that defense, because they have a depth in squad. But Manchester City 4-0 against Brighton, and Brighton did have the odd chance here and there, but I never really saw this. I mean, for every single team that's not in the top 6 that's going to City, it's just a formality. It's just a question of how many goals do City get, because I haven't really seen a lot of teams go to the Etihad and actually get something out of the game. It's been a long time since that happened. But yeah, that is the full Premier League roundup. Now we go into the Championship. What the hell has Steve Cooper done to Swansea City? They've sold Ollie McBurney, their goal-scoring machine, and they have beaten Leeds United. What the actual hell has gone on? Swansea City are top of the Championship after a 1-0 win. Wayne Routledge, who, honest to God, is pushing 40. I mean, I remember when I saw this guy in the Premier League a decade ago. He was in his 20s, but, he's still hanging it around at Swansea, so fair play to the guy. But, really, what Steve Cooper has done to that side is really good, and I do rate them for that. So Swansea are back up to the top of the table. It does not get any better for Stoke. Stoke are in the relegation zone without a win. Birmingham City, Jude Bellingham was their youngest ever goal scorer at Birmingham City, so that's a good achievement for him as well. Preston, they've made a good start as well to the season. They're in the top 5, I believe. They snatched a draw with Nottingham Forest. Charlton Athletic as well, another team that have done absolute madness under Lee Bowyer. Lyle Taylor, probably one of the most informed strikers in the Championship right now. He's doing well as well. West Brom managed to get a win out of against Blackburn Rovers. And speaking of Stoke, and teams like Stoke, poor old Huddersfield Town, they were beaten by Luton as well. And really, it's just bleak for those two clubs, Huddersfield and Stoke. I mean, Huddersfield, there is no way they're going to get back-to-back relegations. So, don't even think about it. But, yeah, it's going to be another tough season. It was pretty much an adjusting season, but I thought Huddersfield would get into the playoffs. But the way they're playing, I don't think they'll even get top half. But, what do I know? Into League One. The main story of League One. Sad and tragic news for Bury fans. Their club was expelled from the Football League, I believe, on Wednesday. They did not meet their financial targets. Steve Dale is probably the most hated man in football in England because of the way he has just run that club to the ground. He just couldn't be bothered to sell the club. And yeah, this does beg a question because 23 teams, it's an odd number of teams. So, the amount of matches that are going to be played for League One sides and, one team getting kicked out of the league in Bury, it will have an effect on every single other team because they're going to be playing, 44 games now. 44 games. Because, of course, 23 teams, you can't play yourself. So, 22 times 2 home and away, 44. So we won't really have the full 46 games that League One has had for the last couple of seasons, really. But the key results in League One. Ipswich Town, they're at the top of League One. They managed to beat Shrewsbury by 3-0. Lincoln City keep up the chase. They managed to beat Fleetwood at home 2-0. Sunderland, not very good for them. Peterborough United, however, on a roll. Marcus Maddison, probably the most high-profile player in League One at the moment for me. How he's not at the Championship begs the question. But Southend United, I mean, I think they only have 1 point this season, and they lost at home to Rochdale. So yeah, it's looking bleak for Southend United already in this season. I just want to touch on Bolton Wanderers though, because they conceded 5 against Gillingham. They were saved by, I cannot remember the name of the owners, but I will definitely mention them in my next podcast, which isn't going to be next week. But by the way, guys, do you want me to do a podcast during the international break? Let me know. Do you want me to do one on England and their qualifying matches, and you know how the squad should be run by Gareth Southgate and stuff like that? Or do you just want me to pack it in for the international break and just stick to Premier League and EFL? You let me know, guys. Just talk to me if you want this to keep going even in the international break and during the Champions League. But yeah, Bolton Wanderers conceded 5, but I think really it's just, I mean, it was only a few days after that they were announced as a saved football club, and to be honest, I don't think Bolton Wanderers fans could have lived with themselves, because they were relegated from the Premier League in 2012. And I said this, I think, in my last podcast or my second to last podcast. If you told them that they'd be in administration, possibly going bankrupt, they wouldn't have believed you. They're still on minus 11 points. They'll probably be in League 2 next season, bar some absolute miracle happening. I mean, they recently appointed former Rochdale boss Keith Hill, I think, who, if you remember, took Rochdale to Wembley in an FA Cup tie against Tottenham Hotspur a season or two back. So, you know, he can work wonders with Football League sides. In League 2, Exeter City, they're heading towards the top after beating another pre-season favourite in Mansfield Town. Newport County, they're going decently as well. 2-0 win away at Forest Green Rovers. Plymouth Argyle was riding high in League 2, but they were beaten away from home against Northampton Town by 3-1. And Salford City and Leyton Orient, exactly the same result as it was last season. They drew 1-1 on the opening day of last season, and they've drawn 1-1 yesterday. So there you go. And Macclesfield Town, still without a manager, they managed to draw against Stevenage. So that really is it for this week. As I said, let me know if you want me to do a podcast during the international break, which is in, I think, a few days' time. So, yeah, and if you have enjoyed, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and as always, I will talk to you later.